Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kerry Davis, and today I'm going to take a little bit of your time and talk to you about expanding your small business. We're also going to dive into adding additional staff headcount within your organization. Determining whether or not to expand as a company is a question many small business owners encounter, particularly when their business is thriving. The idea of expansion is intriguing and exciting, and almost all owners feel as though they have what it takes to get to the next step and grow their business. But what they don't realize is it may not be the most viable option for them from a financial standpoint. AV Matters is an audiovisual production company that provides full production services to their clients and state of the art audio gear to rent. And they have come across this question right now in the throes of things on whether or not they should expand. The research question at hand is whether or not AV Matters should expand their offices to the Midwest and or increase the number of sales representatives on their staff. So the question is, what will that potentially do for them as a company? It could potentially increase their clientele, increase the revenue, and it could also better service their clients holistically. The scope of this capstone project will involve analysis around operating costs to rent, or stand up a new office building in the Midwest, in particular Texas. And the reason for Texas is that it's a state that has no state taxes and only federal taxes. We'll also be doing analysis around adding additional employees with a territory focus on the West and Midwest in order to logistically better serve their customers. So, what are the deliverables that will be given to AV Matters? Well, we're going to provide AV Matters with building and material expansion analysis results. We'll also be providing them with human resource analysis related to AV Matters specifically in the audiovisual market. And we'll also be doing a resource expansion analysis overall. For this capstone project, an in depth literature review was conducted around expanding your small business and or adding additional headcount to your organization to cover a particular area within the domestic United States. What was found as part of the literature review is that companies oftentimes haphazardly make decisions to scale and grow their businesses without giving careful consideration and thought to what it's going to take to not just expand, but to do it successfully. And of course, we all know that every single company, when they expand, wants to do it in a successful manner. And while engaging in the literature review, there were several common themes that I stumbled across. And one was around business expansion. We also stumbled across professional and audiovisual production services and AV staffing and what it looked like from a logistics standpoint. We also looked at AV equipment and costs and the rising costs of AV equipment. And lastly, we stumbled across a theme of pro AV production and corporate events holistically. No matter what industry you're in, almost every company, big or small, is going to have a corporate event. Boynton in 2019 said that the wrong combination of people can discourage contribution and push the company in the direction of stagnation. No company wants to be stagnant. Most companies are looking forward to expanding and growing their business overall. Business expansion. Expanding a company from the East Coast to the Midwest requires a significant amount of investment. And market research and feasibility studies are necessary to determine if an expansion is the right fit in the new location for your particular area of expertise. And you have to determine who the competitors are going to be in that particular area. Are there a lot of competitors? Are there just a few competitors? And do they have the exact same business model as your particular organization? So prior to AV Matters engage in this particular effort, we have to look at all of those particular factors before determining whether or not to expand to the Midwest in the Texas area. AV production and rental companies have fared well over the last few years, but the question is whether or not that trend will continue. And the answer seems to be a resounding yes, with artificial intelligence creating the perfect marriage with AV companies. And companies are in the need of AV production services and rental equipment on the same level. That particular factor is never going to subside because companies are always looking for ways to do a corporate event, whether it be within their own organization or they travel somewhere, such as the Orlando area, to do a corporate event. And when they do that, they're definitely going to need professional AV services. Before expanding a business, companies should create the right culture of expansion from the onset. Well, what does that truly mean? It means you have to infuse the mindset of expansion from the company's inception, and it must permeate throughout the organization. And if you get that done, most likely you'll have buy in when you're ready to expand. Additionally, you have to attract talented, hard-working employees that want to make a difference. Typically, those type of people are all in and they will do whatever it takes to expand the company because it equates to growth on a personal level as well. You also need self motivated folks that will likely fall in line with the owner's vision of expansion and growth if it's preached from the very beginning. In a growth mindset culture, employees should be given the freedom to contribute to a company's success. If they're able to contribute, that you will most likely again have buy-in. That will also lead to an increased sense of commitment to the company, which is what a small business typically needs, people who are sold out for and believe in what they're trying to do. And it's important to understand again that the wrong combination of people can discourage growth overall and push the company in a direction of stagnation, as mentioned earlier. Companies should be committed to increasing working capital overall to expand. So, what does that mean? Again, you have to look at the bottom line and cut expenses to generate enough money to sink into the new location, liquidate, and move capital to purchase inventory that will be needed in the new location. Additionally, you have to look at hiring additional resources and leasing new warehouses in the desired location. Do you really want to lease, or do you want to own? And you have to consider whether or not you're going to have contractors versus employees due to the benefits. If you have employees, you're going to pay an exorbitant amount of money as it relates to benefits. But having contractors can kind of be fly by night. They're here today, they're gone tomorrow, and you lose some of the skill set that you trained them on unless you're using them repeatedly. And you also have to be cognizant of worst case scenarios. What is the worst possible thing that can happen during this particular proposed expansion? And part of helping out with those best and worst case scenarios, you have to look at some of the market studies, and they should be conducted prior to opening the new locations. You have to review existing studies, perhaps engage in your own case studies in order to get a better understanding of what the market looks like overall, and look at your positives and negatives in the AV market in particular. And you also need to have a strong customer base and foundation that will contribute to the success or failure of the new location. You should probably go out to the new desired location, find out how many other businesses are out there that do the exact same thing. Are you a niche market? Do you have something to offer that other AV production companies don't necessarily have? The professional audiovisual industry is growing at an alarming rate. In 2018, the AV industry closed out the year as a $186 billion industry. In 2023, it's forecasted to be a $230 billion industry. That's a $44 billion increase in 5 years, according to Avixa's global industry. According to Brad Grimes, it's reported that North America will be outpaced by 3.8% in the global market throughout the world as it relates to AV. And it's also important to note that AV is no longer a nice to have for organizations. AV solutions are a necessity to compete and deliver at corporate events and trade shows, whether they decide to do their AV internally as an organization or outsource it to other pro AV companies. AV staff expansion is becoming a big issue in the industry. And the reason is they're having a hard time finding qualified technicians and then hiring them and then keeping them on within their organization. Historically, this has been a big problem for the AV industry, and the problem doesn't seem to be going away. Finding young, talented resources is a big issue as the market is dominated by middle aged white men over the age of 50 who are entering into their golden years. Additionally, there seems to be an issue around males and females, as only 12% of the industry is comprised of female resources. The AV pool is littered with resources that simply hop from one AV business to another. The problem with that is not only are they moving from one company to company, they're not necessarily increasing their skill set, which is not necessarily helping the organizations that they're moving to. Instead of hiring qualified persons who will bring a fresh perspective, AV businesses often settle for castaways from another business, as described by McCarthy. Essentially, it's more the same, and the skill sets are not fine tuned as they should be. AV equipment is certainly a key driver to the pro AV company that is looking to expand, and the reason centers around cost. Also, equipment capabilities and expectations have changed for the better, so pro AV companies have to align with the latest technology and trends because corporations that are securing their services are expecting an amazing experience that these pro AV companies have to produce. To date, pro AV company sales are currently being driven by conferencing and collaboration. But it's not limited to that. Digital signage, entertainment, and command and control also play a significant role as strategic drivers in the industry. And small business AV production companies must evaluate if it makes sense for them to expand. And the reason is because of the rise in equipment costs and production fees. Also, infrastructure costs can affect the smaller companies, in addition to the costs of simple things such as cables, cable ramps. All of that can be expensive and a cost that is absorbed by the small business, and they may not be able to handle in the long run. You even have lighting, which can be a detriment in some cases because wireless lighting is needed uh, in many particular performances, and it's 2 to 3 times the cost of wired lighting. Corporate events are essential in the business world, and corporations are still putting on events because they can be directly tied to business growth. It was said that corporate events and business entertaining are used extensively by corporate North America to foster business development and growth and are a major part of a company's communication, sales, marketing, and public relations strategy. Additionally, large scale corporate events will have to enlist the help of AV companies in order to produce and deliver a quality product to their employees and potential customers. AV production companies have the ability to swoop in and make an impact that will generate revenue and bolster their company's bottom line forever. So, what business incentives are out there for companies to move to the Midwest or a place like Texas? Well, states have money that they use as incentives to draw corporations to their respective states and cities so that they can start or expand their businesses. And the money that is appropriated to these companies is given to attract some of the best companies, but also woo some of the brightest and smartest talent in the country. Texas, in particular, is an attractive place for many corporations as there's no state taxes. And the companies are also eligible for low taxes and utility rates, as well as a host of other incentives. Incentives based on geographic location, diversity, workforce, and development helps build certain areas of the cities, and the incentives can vary up to 100%. Also, tax abatement is important when looking to move to another area within the country. There'll be two different types of research strategies that are leveraged from a research and design perspective. And the first strategy will be around survey research, in which interviews will be conducted with various members of the AV Matters staff in a structured and unstructured manner. Additionally, we'll look at a strategy from an action perspective in which historical information will be gathered in various areas such as small business expansion, employee expansion, and pro AV. And lastly, we'll look at a feasibility study and look at the various implications of whether or not it makes sense for AV Matters to expand to the Midwest and in particular the Texas area.